welcome to episode 8 of the weekly update for Dota 2. My name is SUNSfan. I can't do high-pitched voices because I have a cold. Xeno, how's it going, buddy?
It's going all right. I'm actually glad that we're doing this far enough away from the international that you cannot blame me for once for getting sick. So I feel like I'm fully innocent of any god-awful cold you have or your horrible voice right now.
Yeah, so for people that don't know, I got a cold from Neil, who's the owner of Dotacinema. And for whatever reason this last year, every time I've gotten a cold, which has been like 4 times, I don't know why, even though I don't leave my house, I lose my voice every single time. And thank God there was no hero last week because you guys would have heard the worst preview ever. But thankfully he came out today and you can kind of tell I was a little bit sick at the beginning of the intro, but not a big deal. For people who are wondering, Reaves is worthless. That's why he's not here right now. Zeno, anything to add to that?
I don't really have anything else to add to that, actually. I think worthless in one word pretty much describes him tonight. I feel a little bit upset that he did not join me and you for this amazing patch update.
I know, right?
So many things in the patch.
So for people that missed out on our past updates, it's going to be a little bit changed. Well, a lot changed. It's supposed to be me, Zeno, and Reaves every time. And it's going to be kind of like a podcast. I don't know if we can call it a podcast, but we're going to go off on lots of tangents. I don't know about today because there's really not that much to go over. I'm sure we'll find a way, though, to make this like a million years long. But it's very casual. This is what this is. So if you're not into that, sorry, but it's just how it's going to be. And actually, before we get started with the actual patch from today, from Cyborg Matt's blog, mostly thanks to Cyborg Matt for his amazing website. That's cyborgmatt.com, which I actually got to meet him. We got to meet him at the International.
Yeah, it's quite fun. We got to go around, go to the top of the Space Needle and everything, do all this cool Seattle tourist things.
Yeah, so they had a what was it? They had you guys know what a green screen and then a blue screen. The reason they had two is because people might be wearing a green shirt in front of a green screen. It looks really weird, right? So we were with a bunch of people. And Jacob, one of my friends, was wearing a green shirt, so they switched to a blue one after they took the green one. And Neil, who's the owner of Dotacinema, had a blue shirt, so we kept that one, and it looks like his shirt just blends in with the ocean behind. It's freaking pretty epic.
Yeah, it's just his head floating in the air. It's good times.
But yeah, I don't want to go over it too much to make people hate us, because it was an amazing, amazing few days in Seattle. But essentially, I got there the first day, met up with Purge. Actually, Zeno, you came along, you drove, and Jukub flew down with me, and met up with Purge, and he walked us down from the hotel to the Valve offices. And I don't know if this is a bad thing to say, but that was the highlight of my whole trip. The first day, that was the highlight. Like, the tournament itself was amazing, and I'm sure we'll go over that a bit, but the Valve offices are ridiculous.
Yeah, they were quite impressive, and I think it's just it's almost like the Google of like game design companies, in that it's just like the pinnacle of awesome companies that you really, really want to work for if you're actually in the specific area.
The funny thing is, the other day I went out with a friend who works at Google, and I was telling him about the Valve offices, and he was envious. So I don't even know if it's fair to say they're the Google.
Wow.
They're
it's
the Valve.
A tier above Google, apparently.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
So,
but
yeah,
whenever I talk about it, you correct me. I mean, you give me your impressions. Whenever I talk about Valve offices to people, the first thing that comes to my mind is their cafeteria, which apparently I think it's on every floor. It's like a supermarket. There's all this food in the refrigerator. There's all these drinks. There's Snicker bars, which I always mention the Snicker bars, and everything's free. Everything is free. So of course I stuffed my fat face, and it was a great, delicious meal. I got to talk to Ricardo and a couple other people from Valve, and Zoid, Phenol, and a few other people. And like, seriously, I can't say enough how I know I'm sucking some D right now, but really, really awesome people to meet. And it's not too big a surprise why they're working at Valve. I mean, once you see how many projects they're working on at once, and like Phenol, for example, was just running around constantly throughout the tournament, just always busy because he's legit.
He was the busiest guy, and anytime there was like anything going wrong, you just started like a little countdown timer for like the amount of seconds it would take before you'd see him like dashing down an aisle or like running up to the stage to try and get it fixed. Or he pretty much ended up like the busiest guy ever, and it was still obviously very nice of him to take some time at the beginning to show us around and everything. And yeah, I mean, the offices themselves were awesome. The people that worked there were awesome. So it was a very fun event. Sorry that Neil didn't get to participate in that. But
Yeah, to fill that gap in a little bit, Neil did not get to Seattle until later that night, so he was begging the entire weekend for a Valve tour. And I'm sure Fanal and everybody else was just sick and tired of him asking. But I mean, I don't blame him though. I can't blame him. Although it was really awkward at times when he was kept asking over and over. But I can't blame him considering I still consider it the highlight of my trip. But anyway, we got to meet a ton of amazing people: Toby, Purge, Luminous, LD, everybody. I mean, there's too many people to name, so there's no point in even going over it. Then the tournament itself, really interesting. We started off in the middle row of the stands, if you will, in the mix of things, I guess. And honestly, I really like those seats because the screen was very kind of in your face. You know what I mean?
well, you were having a hard time seeing it. You're just complaining about how you're watching at a quote unquote distance the entire time, anytime we get far away. But I kind of agree with you in that the UI doesn't necessarily lend itself to like a giant screen that you're viewing from far away. So
Hmm.
getting up and close and personal, it's more like watching like from a monitor where you get to see all the details that are so important in Dota 2 when you're actually watching the game and get to see all the cool things that the actual pros do. And when you're farther away, you don't really get to see that. So I can understand your point.
Yeah, and so we started off there, and then we started trickling off towards other areas. We ended up on actually most of the time we spent split between the second row balcony, which was VIP slash players only. We ended up just hanging out in the mouse section, which mouse players weren't there almost ever.
Can't
There's
imagine why.
yeah, and the other half we spent in the players lounge. Actually, no. I don't even think we were allowed in the players lounge, to be honest, and we felt always just like we were trespassing. The reason that we were allowed in there technically is because we me and a bunch of people that were with me wandered off onto the backstage area because we just wanted to see what was going on, and we were not allowed in there. And Fanal was very annoyed with us, to say the least. You can see the look of disgust on his face. So we left in a hurry, and he said, just go to the players' lounge. So we just went there, and all these pro players just sitting around watching the games on TV have catered lunch, catered dinner, Snicker bars, which I always have to mention, just scattered around the place. Cool place, a very peaceful place to watch a game, I must say.
Yeah, I think what it is, honestly, is we're so old that we just gravitate like further and further away from all the crowds. We're like, oh
Yeah.
my God, there's so many people. Let's just go up on the balcony where there's like absolutely nobody. And then we just ended up hiding in the back room for parts of the games. But I do have to say that the one time that we were basically forced to go out to the main area was for pretty much every Navi match, because for better or worse, the people did not necessarily get into the Chinese games as much, and of
Hmm.
course all the Chinese teams completely destroyed other than Navi. So it was cool to go out for those games, and like the crowd would like actually be super into the games, and like the entire auditorium thing would pretty much packed. I mean,
Yep.
I think those games were really cool, and I kind of wish that there would be more fans, I guess, for other teams, so you could kind of have that same atmosphere in some of the other games. But hey, what are you gonna do?
Well, now
All
that
the
the
U.S. teams
Chinese,
suck, so
yeah, well, Complexity had really high hopes. They didn't do as well as they should have, in my opinion, but hopefully they don't break up. But I think one of the things is the Chinese scene. I'm not going to say they broke onto the scene because people knew they were really good beforehand, but they didn't really get to watch a whole lot of their matches. And I think this might open people's eyes to perhaps pay attention to that side of the world. And hopefully some tournaments coming up will be able to include more nations and sections of Middle Earth and whatnot to actually get
yeah, I almost kind of
Chinese to
view
play with
like
other
the
people.
Chinese teams as like it's like a bunch of different like kung fu like training areas, and they just like have some like awesome like giant like walls and like nobody can see in, and they just train in secret for
Yeah.
like the other 11 months, and then all of a sudden they're like, hey, we have the best kung fu ever, and we're gonna come out and completely destroy everyone. And that's pretty much what they did.
Oh
So
yeah, their training facilities are freaking legit. I mean, IG has what, like a Was he a billionaire or something like
Oh
that?
yeah, some sort of crazy thing. I heard
Yeah.
rumors that he was like gonna pay like an equal part of like whatever they won or something like that. So who knows?
Wow, that'd be pretty sick. All right, and with that, I think that's pretty much it. After that, in case people are wondering, they're probably bored to tears at this point. Neil came back to my place, and I had him try like every single fast food and candy bar, and because he hadn't tried anything. Apparently, they have nothing in Norway. I feel really, actually, it's probably good for them because there's not a lot of heart disease that goes with it. But you got to have a
Yeah.
little bit of that kind of stuff. So he, if people haven't tried Fuddruckers, that was his favorite place that we went to. We went to like everywhere. Fuddruckers was number one. Carl's Jr. number two.
Oh,
Good
thank
choices.
God. I heard he did not like Taco Bell, and
Yeah.
I mean, nobody can hate on Carl's Jr., so that's not a shock. But yeah, Norway has apparently nothing other than like lutefisk and yeah,
Nothing.
snooze. Nah,
Hmm.
that's all I got.
Anyway, okay, so that is our wrap up of the international. That's what happened at the international, guys.
Yeah, we ate lots of things.
Yeah, I
Lots of
apparently
Snickers
I gained
bars.
like 5 pounds, and Neil lost 5 pounds by eating all this fast food. So I don't know what that means. Diabetes. Okay, so going on to the actual update. Obviously, the main addition is Meepo, who is, I mean, obviously wasn't too big of a surprise since people have been alluding to this. And actually, at the Valve offices, I got to watch Meepo get played. He wasn't quite done then. His net was all messed up, and I knew. Who did we talk? I think it might have been Ricardo we talked to at Valve that said that they won't be coming out with, or maybe it was Zoid, that they won't be coming out with Meepo until they redo the unit selection, which we'll get into in a few minutes here. But what are your impressions of Meepo?
Honestly, Meepo is one of those heroes that I did not play very much because my ability to multitask is awful, and I can't really micro either. I think he's fine. His nets look pretty cool, although for me, again, I can't hit them half the time, so I just rage at how slow they are.
Hmm.
But I mean, it's fine. It's basically it's pretty close to like a direct port as far as how I think he would look. So I have no real complaints.
Yep. I hate to agree with you, but I don't have anything I hate about him. I mean, he looks like a hick, which is a good and a bad thing, depending on your perspective. But the
Well, he's
hero,
like a minor. Come on.
yeah, I mean, the straw. It's the straw in the mouth that makes him look like a hick, no matter what. I don't know, but the actual hero itself, don't care that much about because he's any hero that requires skill to play. I'm not too big of a fan of, unless it's Pudge, which requires a little bit of skill. Uh, just
That's
because
why
he's
you're
fun.
looking forward to Centaur coming out. Hmm?
Oh, we'll get into that soon. Don't you worry, big boy.
This is
Uh,
called foreshadowing. Anyway.
Indeed, there's a couple of foreshadowing going on here. The next thing that they added, which I've been waiting for, and I mean, one of the issues that people aren't going to focus on with this change, and the change I'm talking about is the animated, like first blood, kill streaks, etc., is the text on the bottom left of the screen was pretty freaking cluttered overall. Anytime like a double kill, like I would scroll through that, you have no idea what's going on. It's just like a wall of text. Now it's a little bit separated. Anytime you get like a first blood, any kind of a kill streak, like a rampage or whatever, it's going to come up in the middle of the screen in some animated fashion, which it's kind of like, I don't know how League of Legends does it actually, but it's a little bit kind of like Han with Counter-Strike mixed in because it shows who kills who. Uh, what do you think about the way it looks?
I actually think it's a nice addition. Like to be honest, like when you're in a big team fight, one, like I'm solely focused on the center of my screen, so I'm not really paying attention to all the crap scrolling in the
Right.
bottom left. And then like honestly, like I'll hear like double kill or whatever going off, and then like after the team fight's over, I'll be like scrolling, going like, who actually got that?
Double
So
kill, triple kill.
indeed, for those of you that did not get to see the amazing announcer pack that SUNSfan and Reaves got to put
Oh,
out.
fail.
Yeah. But I don't know. I really think it's a nice touch, and I like that you get to see like what heroes are killing what other heroes. So, I really imagine too. It'll also help in the spectator point of view. Like again,
Mhm.
from like just an intuitive thing where you're watching the game, and all of a sudden you see, like four little anti-mage symbols popping up or whatever when he uses ult and gets like an awesome quad kill or whatever. It's just a nice little visual touch to help you figure out what's going on.
Agreed. And I think the Rampage, it looks fine. I think they're going to end up boosting it though, the way it looks. I think they're probably, and again, I could be wrong. They're probably trying to ease people into this idea of text being on the screen like that, because I know some people won't feel comfortable with it. Because honestly, it kind of is like other MOBA games or ARTS games out there, which I think it's fine. I personally love it. But the Rampage, I think it's going to end up getting a little bit more flashy. But that's just my opinion. I think it looks cool either way, though. Next up, we have the unit selection, which we alluded to earlier. Essentially, this is useful for Meepo and Lone Druid. Does this work for Chen and like creeps and stuff? I don't know.
But frankly, I did not try it out. It would be kind of nice if it did, just so you can kind of see what you actually have selected. But I think it's a nice touch to some degree, but at the same time, like I kind of wonder like how much is that actually helpful for people? I mean, if you're using group selection binds and like hotkeys and stuff like that, I mean, you don't really need that in the first place. So it's kind of only helpful if you're tabbing through unit selections. And I mean, even then, you can kind of tell at the bottom of your screen like who you actually have selected. The one nice thing is it does show for like Meepo where you have like a bazillion like random dudes running around like a little bit more detail on like what's actually going on with each individual one. So if you need to select one really quick that's being attacked, it makes it easier, I guess. But for other heroes other than Meepo, I don't really know how much it matters.
Well, the problem with it is since they had basically no unit selection before, well, I guess they technically did, but it wasn't intuitive. I have unbinded my tab for scoreboard. I binded my scoreboard to tab is what I'm trying to say. So tab is no longer for that, and it can't ever be that. So essentially, I can't play heroes that require multitasking or anything related to Meepo, essentially. So that's all I got to say about that. But I think it looks cool. I guarantee you they're going to be editing it with user feedback as it comes through the grapevine or the dev forums in this case. So we'll see what they end up changing. And the very last thing we're going to talk about, although there are a few incoming items, but nothing that's just beyond belief that I need to talk about. Yeah, I don't think there's anything too big. The Centaur / Magnetar particles, which I mean, it's tough to see. It's tough to gauge what you're looking at exactly with some of these particle effects, but it just goes to show that these two heroes are most likely the closest to being released. I know I saw Medusa being worked on in the Valve offices, but it was just is one of the Valve guys working on the model itself. It looked, I don't know, it's tough to say when you're looking at wireframe, I guess, if it looks finished, but it looked pretty freaking good. So look forward to seeing her soon. But right now it looks like Centaur / Magnetar, the closest. Cyborg Matt, of course, breaking my heart and predicting Magnetar being the next one.
Yeah, I know you've been looking forward to Centaur for, well, ever since the freaking beta first came out. So a little bit over a year now, just waiting patiently. But it'll be cool to see a couple more beefy heroes into the game, I guess. And it'll give you one more hero to play other than Pudge.
Well,
so
if you look at the
nice
list,
change.
and I actually cannot look at it right now, but there are like a few. There's one intelligence hero remaining, I think. There's like 5 agility and like 10 strength heroes.
Yeah.
So this is going to be like the best hero porting session, if you will, the next few months ever for me, since I love strength heroes. And the reason I said I was heartbroken, obviously you said I love Centaur. That's the only reason I'm heartbroken, because I love Magnetar too, just not as much as Centaur. Although I have not played Magnetar since they implemented his charge. So we'll see if that changes. In fact, they combined 2 of his two of his skills are now combined into one. So he's definitely better than before. So he's definitely, I think I said definitely 5 times, but he's definitely fun to play. And Centaur, of course,
At the end of the day, I think they're both 2 quality heroes.
Inside joke.
That will get you to play more heroes other than Pudge. So obviously, that's a good thing. I'm not a big strength fan, as you know. Anything that's not ranged, but
yeah.
I think it's always good to have some more like general sometimes you get so caught up in like the fancy heroes, like lots of micro or heroes that have like really complex skill sets. It's nice to just have like a nice basic hero like Centaur, where it's like, hey, you stun, you can do some damage, whatever.
Sometimes you just need a piece of meat,
Exactly.
you know? Delicious, delicious piece of horse slash man meat. Man, bear, pig. All right, so I think that's pretty much it. There's not the hugest update as far as what things that we'll discuss. Meepo, I think, was probably the hardest hero. I don't know. Rubik seemed pretty hard too. Rubik, Invoker, Meepo are probably the three hardest heroes that Valve has had to implement because they've had to actually change how things work with a lot of other heroes. For example, Meepo, you have to do unit selection to make it proper. For Invoker is a million spells and how it interacts with everybody, and then of course Rubik stealing every single spell in the game and how that works and doesn't break it. So, and actually they're still implementing animations for that as we speak. So it just goes to show how much time is involved. Any last words, Zeno, before we bid everyone adieu? That somebody that has actually watched this whole thing, thank you. I love you.
Yeah, for all 5 people that are still listening to this. At this point, I think we should, just mention our sponsors, which of course McDonald's of 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Not very much meat, a whole lot of filler in their burgers, so good times. Very much like this episode of patch updates. So
But you got to
that's pretty
follow
much
it
all I
up
got.
with cherry Pepto though after every
That
McDonald's
is
meal,
true.
and then you're good to go. All right.
Gotta keep that stomach intact.
So with that, this is the end of episode 8 of the Dota 2 Weekly Update. Look forward to next week when Reaves might actually show up for once, or maybe we'll find somebody else. Who knows? Until then, have a good one, guys. We'll see you around.
Bye.